So next I am going to apply the belt fabric to that small pieces. Then I am going to select it and take the particle distance to down 5, and then I am going to simulate and let it fold and start to fall bit more, and just hold down to it and let it fold something like that. And then I am going to pull simulation and drag it over, and I want to position it just above this thing. If I am noticing that it got a bit sort of spiky, so I am just going to reduce the particle distance, and this is to 5 as well, and just deactivate this for a second, simulate, and that rounded over bit. And I am also going to reduce the particle distance on a belt, and it's sticking up too straight, so I am just going to make this a bit smaller, something like 9, and then simulate, and then just straighten it out, put a pin here on this toggle thing. That looks better, because if it is sticking out oddly, it's not going to work well. Alright, now that we have that, I'm going to reactivate this one, and I am going to position it somewhere something like that, so it's right over the belt. Then I am going to segment sew this part with this part and turn on synchronize, and then simulation, and there it's sitting nicely above the belt. Now it's a bit too big, so I am going to select it, click the middle pivot point, and then slowly scale it down, or too fast it will go through the belt. So just bit by bit, something like that. And now I am going to make the ribbon, so I am just going to select these 3 and freeze them. And to make the ribbon, it's all pretty easy. So I am going to take my rectangular pattern tool, and I will make something about this length. You can make longer or wider depending what kind of ribbon you want. And then I will start by segment sewing these parts together and adding an internal line through the middle to help it fold, and set that also to 0 and 100. Now where is my line here? Here it is. I am going to rotate it to help it simulate better, and I will apply. I add another fabric. Actually I copy the belt so it has the same color already. Then I will load it from the pink dress. I have a ribbon preset which will work for this one too. Might have to modify it, maybe not, let's see. And then apply it and call this ribbon, and then simulate. And in fact I'll just delete the sewing and then let it first fold, add a pin there so it doesn't fold too far. There we go, and now let's segment sew it. Alright, and then I am going to select it and lower the particle distance to 5. It's nice and round. There we go. Now I am going to take it and get rid of that pin. Ctrl W to clear all pins, or if you just wanted to clear that one, then just clear that pin. And I am going to grab and hold the thing. And rotate it a bit. Now to make this ribbon look like exactly coming out underneath this thing, I am going to sew this part, which have to be this part, or we could rotate it and then sew the bottom part. Let's sew this part. So I am going to sew this part to the edge of this thing. Now that one of this thing. So I am going to segment sew along the internal line and then up to here. That looks like it's going to be crossed. Now let's just hide this a second. But there in fact looks like it okay. So it might be just appearing to be crossed over there. We shall see. There we go, and then I'll simulate. There it's look like it actually coming out from some kind of knot. Now we want to make it longer all we have to do, select it and base to do while simulating. So then it can adjust. Now I will get it too short, and there we can make it longer. Now once we have want that simulation nicely, we can just copy and paste it. And in fact I just arrange this so it's easier to see what we showing on here. And then this one here, I am going to nudge over to the other side and rotate it around, and you could also flip it horizontally. And I am going to position it right there by the opening so it has an easy time to slip right in. And then I am going to free sew this internal line onto this part. That looks straight, the sewing in this side. It's twisted but it's straightened here to straight. And it's straightened, so just go by what it looks like here. It's not always the same here. Then simulate. There we have got nice ribbon, bow, or whatever this thing called. Now let's add the ribbon string. So I am just going to move this aside, and the ribbon string I am going to make this same width, just that it look like it's part of it actually coming out, and you can make them any length that you want, of course. So 15, 15, 45, not a big difference. Copy and paste. Now we have these strings. Now I am just going to make the bottom bit around it. Select the both and take the particle distance down to 5 so they are nice and smooth. And then I will copy this and call this ribbon strings, and then I will loading a preset for that. Now use from the springless dress ribbon strings, which works fine for these two. And if you want your ribbon itself to stand out more, than just go into the physical properties and raise a bending weft and or maybe a bit of bending warp too, until it has a bloated round shape or whatever round shape that you wanted to have. This case I want it to be floppy like this, so I am leaving it like that. Then I am take these two lines and bring them down, move them close so it's easy to simulate. Then just to avoid this getting messed up, I am going to freeze them, and I want this to look like it's part of it, so I am going to sew it to the bottom of this part, which is, as we can see, is this part. And depending how we simulate, yet sometimes the bottom of it might be the middle part, so they sew down to the middle instead of the bottom part. Alright, so there we have got a ribbon string, and I am going to sew this onto half of it. Then I am going to sew this onto the other half. Simulate. There we have got ribbon strings coming out of it. Now actually I am going to make the bottoms flat there, so I will delete that curve and this one. Give it a bit of angle. And then I am going to activate the belt and the ribbons in all the parts and see how they work together. And there we go. They are working nice together and nothing is fighting with to the other part. And it looks quite nice, I think. Alright, if you wanted to move it after you made all the parts, you just go tugging on it. It can be cause a mess because things will be slipping in all directions. So if you want to move the whole thing to position it on a middle or something, then the way that you want that, the best way is to move the belt out of the way and take the select box and select all the parts of the ribbon and then use the ribbon to make the belt. There you can see this is moving with the ribbon. It's staying nice and still like we simulate it, and now it's in the middle more. Alright, so last of all I am going to add some frills around her neck, and the way I am going to do that is I am just going to make a longer strip here, something like that. Depends how frilly you want it, just make it longer or less long. Then sew that onto there. can superimpose it over, and I am just going to call this frills and give it some kind of pinkish color or whatever color you wanted to give it. And I am going to apply the art chiffon, let's see, or maybe the cotton onto that, and also lower the particle distance to 5. And before I simulate that, just to make it fast, I am going to freeze my ribbon. Actually, I am deactivate my ribbon simulate. Though we got some frills, I am going to make it a bit longer to have some more frills. And if let's try putting cotton onto it instead of the chiffon, that makes it stand out a bit more. I think that's a nice addition. You don't have to add that, of course, but I am just going to, and then I am going to activate everything. And lower the dress. But before I lower the dress, I want to get a better hang here, so I am just going to freeze all these other parts and then simulate and just arrange it so it looks better. Now something like that, and you can play with it, of course, to make it any way you want. Now we could also deactivate that internal line there. It will be tight against her belt, or we could leave it, which will make it less likely to go through the belt, because if it doesn't have something that taking it in, something it can cause trouble and start to come out of the belt. So I am just going to leave it there, and if you hide it, then we don't even see it. Then I am going to select my dress, put it down to particle distance 5, let it simulate, and then we are done with the dress. And there we have got it with particle distance 5. I moved the ribbon a bit to make it look like exactly belong with the dress, and I am lower the opacity of the dress a bit. So I hope you enjoy this tutorial and that helps you make ribbons and dresses, and let's see in the next video.